Ladies and gentlemen, here we are again after many months, finally back in the studio for Hudson County View Live and Uncut. I'm your host, not always a saint, but rarely a sinner, and a guy that's always got the vibe of a certified winner, John Arhitis. And today, of course, we have lots of the latest and greatest in Hudson County news. So first and foremost, I want to let everybody know, for those of you that maybe haven't been following me on social media, I'll be joined by Jersey City Ward Councilman James Solomon. Certainly we have a lot to discuss happening on the local level there. Beyond that, we're also going to talk about what's been going on governmentally and politically in the past week, just like any other week. There was an interesting pro-police rally over on the Jersey City waterfront over the weekend where we saw the Hudson County GOP chair, also the Republican chair of chairs, Jose Arango, talk about Democrats, and he accused them of using COVID-19 as a weapon in this upcoming presidential race. So that obviously got a little bit of play there on Facebook and Twitter. We're going to talk about that. We're also certainly going to have a discussion about the Hoboken City Council. They had a budget amendment in front of them last night. That budget, $117.8 million. It came with a 9.8 municipal tax increase. And for the council majority, that just wasn't good enough. So they voted down the amendment. So we're going to tell you more about that later on. And we're also going to be talking about the latest as far as the Jersey City Public Safety Headquarters, the talk about defunding the police, and the Civilian Complaint Review Board, that and a whole lot more. And in North Hudson, we're going to be speaking about West New York. We have some allies of Mayor Felix Roque, of course, who lost last year's municipal election against the New Beginnings West New York team. They have filed a lawsuit against the town now, as well as the current mayor, Gabriel Rodriguez. So we're going to clue you in on that as well. But first, we're going to take a commercial break, and then we'll be back with Councilman Solomon.
It takes more than a state-of-the-art medical facility to make a great hospital. It takes a team of dedicated medical professionals. That's the Jersey City Medical Center, Hudson County's #1 hospital. Medical teams consisting of New Jersey's top doctors, Magnet Award-winning nurses, and accomplished hospital associates, all committed to your good health. That's what you have at the Jersey City Medical Center. Make Hudson County's #1 hospital your first choice. Visit us on the web at barnabashealth.org. Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, Jersey City. Hudson County's only monument maker, serving all faiths and cemeteries. Design, studio, and launch inventory on site. Cemetery inscriptions and custom orders welcome. Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, just south of Secaucus Road. Craftsmanship that will last for all eternity. Burns Brothers, Jersey City, Albert H. Hopper, North Arlington. Visit us on the net.
Newport, the luxury waterfront community on the Hudson River, offers the quality of life you deserve in 10 high-rise rental towers with amenities such as the on-site Newport Path subway, light rail and ferry service, Newport Town Square, 3 playgrounds, dog run, upscale restaurants, retail giants like Sears, JCPenney, Macy's, and Target. Morton Williams Supermarket is just outside your front door. A health and fitness club, spa, skating rink, and medical facilities are also on site. NewportNJ.com. Enjoy the New York skyline from Newport Town Square. Manhattan is just one path stop away or quick ride through the Holland Tunnel. Nursery and private elementary schools all on site. 12-screen movie theater at the Newport Center Mall. Want to visit Newport? Stay at the Westin or Marriott Hotel. Go to NewportNJ.com for details. Newport has luxurious towers, great restaurants, shopping, New York skyline views, schools, playgrounds, a marina and yacht club, gym, spa, fine wine, fine living. It's incredible. It's you. NewportNJ.com. Newport, live like you want.
Hudson County View, live and uncut. John Arhitis, and as promised, we are joined right here, right next to me, with Jersey City Ward Councilman James Solomon. James, thanks for coming in again.
Hey, John. Good to see you. Thank you.
So, can we look at that camera angle? Just make sure. There we go. All right. So, first of all, James, obviously it's been a tumultuous 2020. Not that I need to tell you, but. I guess the thing that has really taken up a lot of your time in the past few months, correct me if I'm wrong, but the defund the police movement that we've heard from this progressive groups, you know, Solidarity JC being chief among them, and that is, of course, predated by you trying to get the Civilian Complaint Review Board off the ground, which now looks like you finally could see the finish line. So tell me a little bit about that whole budget process, and then, you know, how we ended up with this current draft and what the CCRB is.
Yeah, so starting with CCRB, right? I think, we have a great police force in Jersey City with JCPD, and we acknowledge that there are problems with it. And we have to create reform and create a system that everybody trusts, so that at the end of the day, both police officers and community members feel like there is a process if they've been mistreated by police, that there'll be a fair, transparent investigation. And the police also believe that their due process rights will be upheld in that investigation. Right now, the current system is just awash in secrecy, right? It's done by internal affairs. I, as an elected official, you as a citizen, none of us have any insight into what happens. The only thing at the very end of the day is internal affairs will tell us if they sustained or didn't sustain a complaint. And what we've learned by looking through the data is that since 2013, there have been 206 excessive force complaints made against JCPD, but only 2 of those 206, less than 1%, have been sustained. And we think that that record doesn't build the trust that we want. So a civilian complaint review board, if established in Jersey City, would, we believe, create that transparent process, that open process, that fair and impartial process to assess if in a case an officer has or has not engaged in misconduct. So we've been working on an ordinance over the summer. We worked on it with a number of different community groups. It's led by Jersey City Anti-Violence Coalition Movement, ACLU of New Jersey, members of the NAACP, all working together. We've created a draft ordinance. We'll be introducing that draft ordinance at our upcoming council meeting on Wednesday. And it's not at the finish line. We have to kind of have more conversations, talk to a number of different folks, hopefully get a final product across the finish line. But then even once we do that, then we've got to go to Trenton. Because we need state legislative authority now because of a recent Supreme Court ruling to ensure that the CCRB will have the power and authority that we believe it should have.
Right. I said the finish line's in sight. I guess I probably said it's more like you just crossed over to midfield, but
yeah. 40-yard line.
But, you know, it's a lot more movement than what some people were expecting at this point was what I was trying to get at. So with that said, I know obviously this has been something that you've invested a lot of time in, and interestingly, you know, shortly after you put out that release and we reported on that, then we heard that one of your colleagues, Denise Ridley, of course the Ward A representative, will be doing her own ordinance for next week's meeting. And the chief thing that I saw different between those two was actually who gets appointed and how they get appointed to that board, whether that will be 9 or 11 members. So have you had conversations? Do you feel like this is where you could reach like a level ground?
So the goal 100% is to find common ground with Councilman Ridley. You know, we want to, at the end of the day, have a unified voice in Jersey City saying we believe that a civilian complaint review board is right for our city, and to send that message to Trenton to say, give us the authority to do it right and to do it well. We do have a difference of opinion right now on appointments to the board. And just to sort of explain, you know, where my position and the folks I'm working with, Anti-Violence Coalition, ACLU, and NAACP, where they're coming from is, at the end of the day, the board has to be viewed as legitimate by the community. If you create a board, and at the end of the day, the board just simply doesn't create real investigatory power, then the community is not going to trust it. And we have a history in Hudson County of having boards appointed by people that are part of the political machine and part of the political establishment.
Here in Hudson County.
I know, shocking, right? Never heard of it before. So part of what we need to do is make sure that there's a way to appoint members to the board who the community know are going to be independent and have their interests at heart. And so we reserve 7 of the 11 spots for 7 different, you know, established, long-standing community organizations to appoint a member. Now that member still has to be approved by the city council, so if for some reason they nominate someone that there are objections to, there is a public forum to raise those objections and ask your city council members to vote down the nomination. But at the end of the day, we think ACLU, NAACP, Jersey City Together, those types of groups, you know, they'll each nominate 1 member, and that member will be fair and impartial, and everyone will trust that they're going to do the job that they're there to do.
Very good. That's a good, we're a little early, but I'm going to take this moment. So we're going to take a quick word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back with Councilman Solomon.
The Jersey City Medical Center. You know it for its award-winning, life-saving ambulance service. It's also your health hub, with health and wellness locations staffed with certified professionals all through Hudson County. The Jersey City Medical Center, here to help you with your healthy, here when you need us the most. The Jersey City Medical Center. Visit us on the net to learn more. Jersey City Medical Center, Robert Wood Johnson, Barnabas Health Facility. Let's be healthy together.
Good Friend Self Storage in North Bergen, New Jersey is a fully climate-controlled facility equipped with state-of-the-art security, packing supplies, a Refer a Friend program, and multiple loading docks convenient for commercial use. Located just off of Route 3 at 4301 Tunnelly Avenue, Route 1 and 9. Call 201-867-2444 or visit us on the web today. Good Friend Self Storage. Let us be your good friend.
Hudson County View live and uncut. I'm your host, John Arhitis, and as you probably know by now, joined with Jersey City Warden Councilman James Solomon. So James, obviously we're just getting into the CCRB. Now, do you believe that could potentially be a competing ordinance due to the fact that the administration doesn't want to see certain people appointed to this board in the event the board is formed?
It's a good question. I think that at the end of the day, if the appointments come through the traditional way of doing it, mayor, council, then the political establishment will have more control over those appointments. And that's true today, right, Mayor Fulop, but it's also going to be true in any future mayoral administration, whoever that might be. So yes, there is an amount, the degree in which is about control and power, and we think that kind of vesting that, not 100%, but a good chunk of that in the community is better for the long run, right? The long run that those people appointed by trusted community organizations are going to maintain the legitimacy of this board. Because the worst thing in the world would be to happen is you create the board, but then 5 years later we're in the exact same place where no one trusts the work that they're doing. And so that's what we're trying to avoid.
So obviously, as you're well aware, there was a shooting incident a week ago where an officer shot what they're calling an armed assailant in the wrist, according to the preliminary investigation by the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office. Now, I know myself, and I'm sure plenty of other people have put in open requests for that body camera footage, and we're still just sitting here waiting. So do you feel like a CCRB would help to expedite these kind of issues in the future?
Absolutely. I mean, in the case of a shooting, there is a little bit of a different investigatory process. And HCPO will have a role in that process, or the Attorney General's office. But let's take the incident on Boswick Avenue, the one on Neptune Avenue. I believe that a CCRB, one, will help get information out sooner. But I think more important than the speed is at the end of the day, the community will trust that the investigation was totally fair and impartial, right? I don't know, and I be clear from my position, I don't have a position on whether those incidents were proper or not proper. I haven't seen the videos, I haven't done the interviews. However, what I want to make sure is that there is a process that everyone trusts. And so the next time that incident like that happens, people don't kind of go into their corners and say, well, they were justified or they weren't justified. People can say, hey, look, we know that the CCRB is going to look at this. We know that in the past they've been fair to both sides, right, police and community, and therefore there's going to be trust in whatever the outcome of that investigation is.
So in the midst of all these conversations about possibly reforming JCPD and having some more oversight, you've obviously butted heads with Mayor Fulop on a few things, this being one of them, and certainly the defund conversation being another. And so just on that point, he said, I wanted to bring this back up, that if you're, and Councilman Lavaro's plan to take the $5 million from employees that are no longer going to be working for the city in public safety and put them back into community service programs, he said that would ultimately lead to layoffs. I believe what he was saying is the $5 million could be $2 or $3 million next year, and that would lead to layoffs or firings. But as far as like how would that work out?
So, just disagree with the mayor on that front. What Councilman Lavaro and I were really clear about is we do believe in a strong police force, and we believe in Jersey City has a strong force. So we don't want to, kind of demolish it, do anything.
Weaken it, none of that.
Yeah, in that regard. But what we're saying is it a better use of our money to hire our 1,000th police officer or our first social worker? Is it a better use of our money to hire, police officers 1,000 to 1,050? Or is it better to put that money into the first well-funded anti-violence, violence interrupter program in the city? Because at the end of the day, we think that's going to reduce violence more, right? Now, when we came up with the funding mechanism, we specifically looked at those officers who had retired. And in the past, what we've seen is those retirement savings. You would budget for their salaries, they retire, you don't have to pay the salary. That saving has been funneled into things like excessive overtime. We wanted to say, hey, look, we think the better use of that money is to fund it into these community programs. And then yes, next year, you got to fund those community programs again. But part of the whole conversation that we should be having as a country and then as a city is our funding equitable? Our budget is our values. It's putting your money where your mouth is. And if you say, hey, we have inequity in our city, we have violence that can be solved both by police and by community, well, let's show where the funding is. And our view is you've got to have both funding for police and funding for community.
Now, with that, given your recent disagreements with the mayor about other issues as well, but largely public safety, there's a lot of people from Jersey City and beyond that feel like you're going to be the guy that runs against him in 2021. So have you given any serious consideration or any consideration at all to possibly running for mayor in 21?
So I think, start with this, our disagreements are substantive policy-oriented disagreements. And when I ran for office, councilman, I made a promise to my constituents that I wasn't going to be sort of cutting deals with any kind of political machine, whether they be the mayors or the old guard, that I was going to do what I thought was right and represent their interests. So in this case, that put us in conflict because we had a difference of opinion, a difference in view on how to handle some of the issues around policing and budgeting in the city. That's a policy fight, and I'll have it today, and in the 21 budget, we may have it again. In terms of running for mayor, I'm going to just be focused on the work that I'm doing on these policy sort of issues and just trying to make progress for the city.
Can I get you to commit that you won't run a mayor Fulop's ticket next year?
I think it's unlikely. Look, I've said this all along. Like 21 is it's getting closer, but it's still a ways away, right? I didn't announce my campaign until May of 21. We have months and months and months to go. And policy is always more important to me than kind of the political maneuvering. So, we don't know what the mayoral matchup could or would look like. We have to see who's running. We have to see what slates are, what policy commitments the candidates are going to start making. All of that is going to determine the sort of maneuvering. I think it's fair to say it's unlikely I'll be on the ticket, and that I would choose to be on if he offered it. But we'll cross those bridges when we get there.
Very good. That's Jersey City Wardy Councilman James Solomon. Thanks so much for joining us again.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. We're going to take another commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Consumer Carpets, 3408 Kennedy Boulevard in the Jersey City Heights, your one-stop store for residential and commercial floor treatments, carpeting, linoleum, tiles, laminates, hardwood floors, area rugs, remnants. All major brands, all in stock. Free estimates, same-day installation. Consumer Carpets, it's savings, selection, installation. Credit cards and debit cards accepted. Financing available. Consumer Carpets, price to fit your budget, installation to fit your schedule. On the net at consumercarpets.com. Consumer Carpets, Jersey City, 201-792-2712.
Panapinto Properties, Jersey City. Shaping the workplace with state-of-the-art office space and an address your company desires. Building residences that define your home environment. Adjacent to all modes of transportation. On-site parking available. The right address, the right lease. 201-521-9000 or visit on the web at panapintoproperties.com. Panapinto Properties, building Jersey City for everyone.
Hudson County View, live and uncut, John R. Highness. So like I said, there's some other things throughout the county we wanted to talk about today, and one of them was this pro-police rally at the 9/11 Memorial in Jersey City. So the main speaker, as I said at the top of the program, was the Hudson County GOP chair, Jose Jarengo, who is also the New Jersey Republican chair of chairs. Now, as expected, he is not somebody that's in support of Governor Phil Murphy, nor is he somebody who supports the Democratic nominee for president, Joe Biden. Once again, he's the Republican chair. Obviously, it wouldn't make sense if it went the other way around. But with that, he had some pretty strong words about Governor Murphy's COVID restrictions, initiatives, regulations, so on and so forth, and why he's doing that. And he does not believe it's for public safety. He thinks it's for political gain. So he could say it better than I can. So we're going to cut right to that clip.
The reality is that after all this craziness that the government is providing here in New Jersey, that is creating a socialist state where we close the business, we can't vote like regular people. We can't do business because COVID-19. Let me tell you something. COVID-19, yes, is here. COVID-19 is a reality. But the main thing is we have to be careful. We have to sanitize ourselves. We have to be responsible. But you can't close the business because closing the business does not cure COVID-19. Closing the business will just destroy the economy. And when you use a pandemic as COVID-19 to try to win an election, then is inhumane. And that's what the Democratic Party is doing right now. They blame politics with our lives.
All right, so as you can see, Chairman Arango feels a very particular sort of way about how Governor Murphy has been conducting business here in New Jersey throughout the public health emergency, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic. So as you guys know, at the end of March, he issued that order that essentially closed all non-essential businesses, and that ended up, of course, including restaurants, bars, nightclubs, so on and so forth. Obviously, you guys know as well as anybody else by now. And he feels like the economy should not still be taking a hit from COVID. He feels like the coronavirus risks can mostly be alleviated by wearing a mask, and that putting people out of business is not conducive to good government or good business. Obviously, there was some very strong opinions on Facebook and Twitter about this, and I'm sure those are still going to continue pouring in probably for another couple days. But, as we get here in prime time for this presidential race where, of course, Vice President Biden is taking on Donald Trump, I don't imagine that this rhetoric from either side of the party, either party is going to change a whole lot. I mean, we're just a couple weeks away, a few weeks away, I should say. And this is something, though, that you're not really used to seeing in Hudson. I mean, obviously, this is a navy blue state. We've seen and we've read that there's 1 million more registered Democratic voters than Republican, roughly 1 million. It's actually even a little more than that now. So it's going to be a very interesting dynamic. I mean, I think we could safely say that Joe Biden will win this state by 3-1 at worst. I mean, it's probably going to be 4-1 or more. So, what impact this has in the overall race remains to be seen. But I think the biggest impact that we're going to see out of New Jersey is which Democratic committees, which Democratic leaders, whether those are local chairs, whether those are county chairs, council members, assembly people, state senators, you get the picture. How many of those people decide to get involved in the swing states where every vote's going to matter, in Florida, where we're talking Pennsylvania, we're talking Michigan, so on and so forth. I think that's really what's going to be the difference maker, as of course is the case in most presidential races. Obviously, national politics is not my strong suit, but I think we could see where this one is going to end up. The other thing, at that same rally, we saw quite a few speakers talking about their distaste, to put it nicely, for all these vote-by-mail initiatives for the November 3rd general election. And we know that President Trump has spoken out very adamantly against this. He said this leads to widespread voter fraud, and he's talked about the election being stolen. He's talked about, outside interference, and he's explained that as a reason why some of the initiatives at the U.S. Postal Service have taken place, so on and so forth. And on the other end, we've seen somebody like Senator Menendez, who's, of course, a Union City native and is our U.S. Senator here in New Jersey, talk about how President Trump has voted by mail previously, particularly out of Florida, as well as that there's several states that have every election via vote by mail long before coronavirus was a global concern. So obviously, this is going to be a November like no other. Similar to the rest of 2020, everything has just been upside down. So really, at the end of the day, all we can do is expect the unexpected and just brace for impact, right? So with that, we're going to take our final commercial break. We'll be right back.
Rama Jewelers, located in the Lyndhurst Shopping Center at 413 Valley Brook Avenue, Lyndhurst. Come for all your jeweler needs at Rama Jewelers, where you will find a fine selection of necklaces, earrings, rings, and bracelets. Choose from one of our complete sets, our many signature items, or find the perfect engagement ring. Come on down. That's Rama Jewelers at 413 Valley Brook Ave, Lyndhurst. Call 201-939-5784 or visit us online today.
You know those times when you need to see the doctor, but you just can't get to the doctor? So where do you go? Go to the App Store, download the Telemed app from RWJ Barnabas Health, and you see the doctor right away, from any mobile device. Whenever you want, wherever you are.
Quality care, no appointment necessary. The doctor is online when you download the Telemed app.
Don't you feel better already?
RWJ Barnabas Health. Let's be healthy together.
Hudson County View, live and uncut, John Arhitis. And of course, we rarely get through a show without talking about the Mile Square City, so we're going to do just that. Very quickly, though, I did mention at the top of the program something out of North Hudson, so just real quick, hurry up offense. We've seen Stephen Rodas, Silvio Acosta, and Ruben Vargas, three top officials in the Mayor Roque administration, again, that's in West New York, file a political retaliation lawsuit against Mayor Gabriel Rodriguez in the town. This is a 12-page, 3-count lawsuit, and their allegations are that they were fired for supporting Mayor Roque. However, in each instance, at least the 3 main instances, there's actually 5 plaintiffs in this case, the administration could point to a number of reasons why they were let go. For example, the parking authority where Stephen Rodas and Ruben Vargas worked was dissolved, and in the instance of Silvio Acosta, we saw that he did not get his state certification after a number of years. So I wish we could do more on that, but like I just said, I want to get into Hoboken. This was a pretty important story from last night. So we're going to close on this. The Hoboken City Council had an amendment in front of them. This was technically the second, well, it would have been the second reading of the 2020 budget, $117.8 million with about a $62 million tax levy. The long and short of it is that Councilwoman at Large Emily Jabbour, who's the co-chair of the Finance Committee with Second Ward Councilwoman Tiffany Fisher, explained that they have made a number of cuts, and while the municipal tax increase is 9.8%, after seeing what happened in the county at the Board of Education and with the Open Space Trust Fund, the tax bill for the average Hoboken resident is only going to go up 1.4%. However, that explanation did not sit well with the majority of the council, in particular, Third Ward Councilman Mike Russo, who was just fit to be tied when he was addressing this subject. So we're going to show you a brief clip from him.
Because quite honestly, we don't really need to worry about our bond rating if in fact we don't bond. That's what got us here. That's why we're in the position we're in. $250 million of bonding. And every dollar of that $250 million is from the Zimmer administration to present. That's only over the last 10 years. We could simply take 3, 4, 5, I would take 5, but take some money out of the surplus. Try to reduce that overall 10%. Figure out if that $2.3 million in the parking utility is just a way that we could further increase our surplus year over year. Use that money this year. Because if you let me do it, I'll get you to 0. I'll get you to 0 for a 0% tax increase for the municipality, which then would have a reduction overall for the citizens. We can't keep pretending. This is the most frustrating thing that I've dealt with as a councilman in all my years. All my years. It's the finances of the city, and it's not just this administration. It's the last administration was a disaster. The administration before that was a disaster. And we're all sitting here, we're going, well, it's October, and we can't do anything. Bullshit. We can do something. So let's do it.
So as you can see, he was not happy. Ultimately, that budget amendment failed by a vote of 6-3. Council members Emily Jabbour, Phil Cohen, and Jim Doyle voted no. There's now a special meeting next Wednesday. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time. Thanks so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to be back in the studio. We'll see you next week.